Hi, everybody. It's JT from the CC and JT Amateur Hour, and today we're out doing our second podcast, the Nevada Author Network. And I'm joined by two esteemed members of the Nevada Author Network. Of course, my significant other, CC, who I have an extreme amount of affection for, and our very good friend, Jacci Turner. And welcome, Jacci.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Jacci is a Northern Nevada icon when it comes to the writing community. And I'll let her introduce herself here in a moment. But for Cece and me, she has been a mentor, and she has been a leader, and she has been a very patient person. And she also, whether she wants to admit this in public, she's also been one of my beta readers on my latest book, Sheriff of Nevada. And for that, I am incredibly grateful. Jacci's influence among the literary community here in Northern Nevada is just immeasurable. In fact, Jacci is one of the founding members of the Sierra Arts literary community. And I am negligent in reminding folks that this podcast is a partnership with the Sierra Arts Foundation because we want to elevate the visibility of those in the Sierra Arts literary community. Jacci was doing it a long time before we stepped into it. So Jacci has been a driving force. And I know she's blushing by now, but sometimes people should receive the kudos, and Jacci, you're certainly deserving of that. So applause, applause, applause. Thank you for not only being one of the leaders, but also one of the driving forces behind the literary community, but also being the maintainer and the cat herder of the Facebook group of the Northern Nevada Writers, which can also be very interesting. So we're thankful for that. Okay, I talk too much. Jacci, after all that, let's see if you can introduce yourself.
I don't know. I think I should just go home now. I've never been introduced so lovingly before. Yeah, I'm just a local writer, and I love to write. Let's see, I can never keep track, but about 15 books, and I've got about 3 or 4 more on my computer that I'm working on, and I write because I love it, and I write because I would love people to read it. And people ask me, doesn't it cost more than you make? Yeah, it does. That's why I'm still working. This is my office, but I'm determined to keep going.
And that determination goes through, and I think it's all part of your character, because you are. I don't want to say retired because I'm finding out retired is not an accurate description anymore to anybody. We don't really retire. We just enter different phases of our lives. But you are a retired marriage and family therapist. We have also one of those in our own family. We also have a retired marriage and family therapist who very rudely, by the way, went to Italy right now without taking us.
Whoa. You guys were in Paris a year ago or something.
We did.
2 years ago now.
But so between what we've seen from your experiences and what we've seen from our MFT, we understand that's a very complicated, challenging life, and you bring that to your writing. I don't want to give you such a slam dunk question, but why not? What about how did being that MFT, that marriage and family therapist, how did that influence your writing?
Well, I've worked with kids all the way from kindergarten through college. And so I guess originally I just especially wanted to write for kids and for teens. And I wanted to infuse hope into the reality that they live in, because we live in a very difficult world. And hope is really important to me. It's the only thing I can cling to. And I wanted my writing to have that, yeah, life is hard, these things happen, but if we hang together with each other, we can get through them. So it kind of is my thing.
And I don't mean to single out any one of your books, but I'm going to anyway, because it's one of the books I read was Cracker. And CC, we blew it. We forgot to bring our books to the interview.
You're right.
We have your books. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Jacci. You know from your experience, and we know from living it, that teenagers can be very focused on internal processes, internal thinking. And what I found valuable about Cracker, which is, is a
Alternative history.
An alternate history where there's some race swapping, for lack of a better phrase, where folks of our demographic are the minority. And I think that's very valuable and it's written for teenagers. So it's very valuable to provide this perspective for teenagers. Did you receive any kind of feedback on that in that manner?
Yeah, most of the white people that read the book talk about the microaggressions, like that's new to them, about having to find their shampoo by the pet supplies or whatever. But my friends of color, when they read it, they say, yeah, this is a really good introduction to the topic, like very minimal, which is true, but I wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to start the discussion. And the reason that's important to me is because when I was young and I wanted to understand racism, I read some really good books. A librarian gave me Black Like Me and Hey White Girl and the one about the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman. And those were huge for me, life-changing. And so I wanted that to be that kind of a book to just open up the topic of racism, systemic injustice, and microaggressions.
And I thought you did it effectively. Cece, which book of hers did you read?
I read Love Virus, which I guess we would characterize that one as an adult fiction. It does have a younger character in it who was 16 or 17.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
But I love the interaction between the three women in that book and basically all the relationships. We often talk about how JT's books are very character driven, and Love Virus was also very character driven because obviously the topic of the pandemic is still a pretty raw one for all of us, I think, but the way you handled it was just so, and I know this has come in on a lot of your reviews, but heartwarming. Yeah. The fact that these women were supporting each other and interacting with each other during such a difficult time. So, and I know at the time you were getting ready to publish that, you were wondering if it was too soon, or if readers might think it was too soon. Have you gotten a lot of feedback of people saying that they just can't read it right now because it's too raw for them?
Some people have said it was difficult to read right now. When I took the poll on TikTok, I'm like, is it too soon? It was about 50-50 at that time. And when I decided to do it, and that was 4 years after. So I wrote it actually during the pandemic as it was happening. But the people that made it through who said, it was really heartwarming. They say that the pandemic is more of a setting or a character than necessarily the overwhelming part of the story. So it's really about the women, and there are three different ages, because if you recall, different age groups really experienced the pandemic differently. Older people were so isolated. Younger traveling people couldn't travel for their work anymore. High schools couldn't go to prom. So I wanted that breadth of experience to be in the book.
And how did you feel about setting that in Reno? Was it just because that's what you were living through and you did it that way? Yeah. Because I think it was really nice to have that, at least for me as a reader, to have that familiarity with the setting.
Yeah, people from Reno really like that part. I love sneaking things like that into stories, familiar places or familiar people. I even put other people's friends' books into my stories sometimes, especially with the kids when they're reading, Terry Farley's horse book or, something like that. It's fun.
So we're doing these books that were kind of set in modern era, modern United States, and then along comes Tree Singer. And where did that come from? I mean, you're doing this urban fiction, you're doing this contemporary fiction, and then your first fantasy, Tree Singer. What happened?
I love fantasy. It's actually my favorite thing to read. I don't know. I was sitting in front of a giant redwood one day, which is my favorite thing to do. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be neat if there was a girl who could sing to trees and help them grow? And then the story was born. And I really enjoyed the world building part of that. It's not high fiction. There's no dragons. But just coming up with a magic system and figuring out how it worked and trying to find names for people that aren't the names we use, those kind of things, that was really fun. And the second book was harder for me. I think second books often are. But the third book and last book in the series, I'm really having a blast writing. I think it'll be really wrap it up well. So
do you find it easier
go ahead.
to write?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you find it easier to write the contemporary fiction versus the fantasy? Is one easier than the other for you?
I don't think so. Well, that's a really good question. I think whatever I'm writing at the time is the thing that I'm having the most fun writing. I'm actually, I've also written a historical fiction, so I'm editing that on the side, and that's really fun too. I've never done that before, and one of my problems, if I were a traditionally published author, would be that I like to jump around in genre. So I also have a nonfiction. I mean, I'm like, I think this, whatever captures my mind at the time is what I'm writing, and that's not great.
I got you back there. I got you back there. This is a question I asked Rich Moreno, Susan Morgan Williams, and I'm going to go ahead and ask you. And I know I'm name dropping, but you've written you put Love Virus, you placed it in Nevada. We placed it in Nevada. And so I'm not going to let you cheat by saying, well, it's because I live there. But what is it about writing books in Nevada that you think draws Nevada writers?
Well, I like to read books, that are familiar, placed in familiar stories or places I've been. I'm like, oh, I've been there, which is always a happy thing. I had a unique experience when I wrote my first middle grade fiction was Bending Willow, and it starts in Reno, and then it goes to Idaho. And the librarians in Nevada found that book. I don't even know how, because it wasn't even out in print yet. And they chose it to represent Nevada at the Washington, D.C. Book Festival, and that was such an honor. But what I loved about writing that book actually was when it got to Idaho, because that's where I was born, and that's where my grandma had a farm and all my aunts and uncles lived. And I got to put not only characters from my life into that book, but my grandma's farm. I put the farm in. And so even though that's probably only special to me and my cousins, it's just so fun to have a sense of place that is now in a story that will be there forever.
Oh yeah, when I wrote one of my books, I put my cousin in one scene, two cousins of mine in one scene as ER doctors, even though I think they were like 3 and 5 years old at the time. So not predicting it all, not predicting it all.
No.
I'm sorry, Cece, did you have a question?
No, I'm just enjoying listening to the discussion.
Can we talk about one technical aspect of the writing, which we haven't had a lot of people be able to speak to it? I'm looking at your website over here, you're a recipient of grants from the Nevada Arts Council. So you've gotten checks. You've gotten checks and grants. Can you give us some insight as to the process for those of us that may want to go down the road? And what was it, a big time suck, that kind of thing?
To write the grant. Northern Nevada, what's it called? Nevada Arts Council has wonderful opportunities for authors. And I used to really talk about this a lot on our Facebook page, because I feel like especially during the pandemic, they just kept giving away money, where they got all this money from the government. I'm like, to apply for this money, they're giving away money. Please apply for this money. But you kind of have to keep an eye on it, because there's different kinds of grants. Sometimes it's like a fellowship grant, and those are more extensive. You fill out you have to have an author backstory kind of page, and you have to give samples of your writing, and it is a lot of work. But I tell you, I've gotten some wonderful grants, and they had a program where they trained you to work with older artists. They called it aging artists, of which I am an aging artist. I qualify. But I took their training, and then I taught 2 classes for aging artists. In fact, they invited me recently to come back and do that again, but I couldn't do it time-wise, but I sent it over to Susan Morgan Williams, and she'll be doing that. So if you can get yourself on their roster, all you have to do is apply to be on their I keep saying Northern, but Nevada Arts teaching roster. Then you can get invited to teach things, and you can get money for that too. Sierra Arts also has a roster for teaching artists. All you have to do is fill out the paper, fill out the forms, and then you can get on their roster as well.
Excellent.
So for those grants, do they require that you provide some kind of specific product once you've been given the grant? Like you have to write a specific book, or is that something, for example, you've been doing audiobooks. Can you get a grant to actually hire a narrator to do an audiobook?
Depends on the grant. Some of them are very specific. If you're writing a folklore, they have a folklore kind of grant. If you're writing about Native Americans or different kinds of practices, you might be able to get one of those. And I have gotten grants that are for works in progress, so you don't have to come out with a specific book, but you just have to tell them what progress you've made and things like that. So, yeah, you just got to dig around in their grant section and see what you can apply for. It will tell you who can apply. Like if you have a nonprofit, they have nonprofit grants. They have, it's not just literary, they have it for visual artists as well.
So tease us a little bit. You don't have to, of course, give us covers or names or anything like that. But what's up? What's up next for Jacci Turner and her books?
Well, definitely the third book in the Tree Singer series, because I'm really having fun writing that. I'm just working really hard on this, oh, I almost said this stupid railroad book that I'm writing about the Transcontinental Railroad because I'm so frustrated with it. I've done everything wrong in this book. It's my first historical fiction, so I've been really careful because there's a recently enslaved character, there's a Chinese railroad working character, there's a trans character, and so I've paid a lot of people to do sensitivity and authenticity reads and about the historical time structure as well. And then I've paid for storyline edits and I've gotten a lot of feedback, and every time I think I'm done, I think I've had it edited twice and then I have to rewrite something. So I've just put way too much money into this book, but someday I will publish this book, and I don't know how or when or why, but and I still don't have a name for it. I just call it the railroad book, which is stupid, but I don't know what to call this book, so maybe I'll run it by you as a beta reader and you can help me find a name.
Yep, sign us up for that because I know CC in her past life as a state archivist or a senior archivist, you know, there's a font of information available to you if you're so inclined. And of course, I've got all my Civil War books over here somewhere. Yeah, so shoot it our way. So okay, so let's wrap this up by selling Jacci. Jacci, where can we find you on the internet? And what are your preferred social media sites where people watching this can find you?
Okay, I'm super easy to find if you spell my name right. Jacci Turner. So I'm at Jacci Turner or at Jacci Turner Author on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I used to be on X, but I went away from that. Those are my favorite three, but I'm on most all the others too. TikTok is actually my favorite platform because of all the
Yeah,
book
yeah.
talkers.
Yeah, every time I open up TikTok, oh look, it's Jacci.
It's easy
I'm playing
for
with
me.
you.
I love it. It's fun. And
I'm
those
playing with
people
you.
they have been incredibly supportive to me. They do interviews, they read the book and write reviews. So TikTok, I keep trying to tell authors that, and they're like, I don't want to do TikTok. I'm like, really, you're missing out right now.
Yep. Okay, I guess we'll wrap this up. Any last thoughts from anybody?
Well, I just think we should, as of the recording of this, coming this Saturday, I believe you're going to be at the Barnes & Noble in Reno.
That's
Doing a
right,
book
from
signing?
like 1 to 4-ish, I think, and also Sierra Arts Literary Community meets this Sunday at their downtown art gallery at 2 o'clock, and everyone's welcome.
Yeah, I hate to correct you, but
Oh,
they took July off. They took
that's
July off
right.
because that Sunday is July 4th weekend, so we're going to be actually the first
Yes.
Sunday in August. But that's a very good point. If you are a writer in Northern Nevada, please stop by. And we're a fun group. There's like 30 or 40 of us just physically
Okay.
present. And Jacki's Facebook group, Northern Nevada Writers, has dozens. Do you have a count anyway of how many people are on that now?
It's all like over 500.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I know, it's a little crazy.
That's cool.
Yes, we are in so many different ways.
Dozens of people that actually interact, but you kind of have to keep checking because a lot of people post, and it's you gotta dig around in there. But
Okay,
yeah,
so nice. Into your life one more time.
you bet.
And I just want to remind folks that the Nevada Author Network is a partnership between the Sierra Arts Foundation and Two More Books LLC. We're on a mission to elevate and highlight over 500 writers in Northern Nevada. Folks, we do really good work out there, and Jacci is just one shining example, so please check us out. Thank you, everybody. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.